Hello and welcome Desto for a first stream of 2025, and obviously we are here to talk about again Indian football. So first of all, happy new year to everyone and happy new year to you also, sir. So how are you and uh, थॉट्स अबाउट द इंडियन फुटबॉल इन 2025? आई थिंक क्योंकि 2024 के बारे में तो मैंने देखा कि काफी सारे लोगों ने बातचीत की है कि भाई डार्क करियर, वन ऑफ द वर्स्ट ईयर, और वो सारी चीजें तो है ही। लेकिन थोड़ा सा हम आगे देखते हैं कि भाई 2025 में इंडियन फुटबॉल के पर्सपेक्टिव से कौन कौन सी ऐसी चीजें हैं, चाहे वो नेशनल टीम हो, क्लब लेवल पे हो, या फिर ओवरऑल एज ए जनरल इंडियन फुटबॉल के पर्सपेक्टिव से कौन कौन सी चीजें हम एज ए लुक फॉरवर्ड कर सकते हैं, या फिर आप बोल सकते हैं कि एक डिफरेंट फेज में इंडियन फुटबॉल जा सकता है। सो व्हाट्स योर थॉट अबाउट दैट?
First of all, Hiren, Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to everybody who's watching, who's joined us. Um, yeah, it could become a very interesting year, 2025, because as you said, 2024. Let's as quickly as possible forget 2024 from an Indian football perspective. Um, there are a lot of opportunities and chances for Indian football. I know that national team things are not looking good, difficult to say the least, looking at the results of 2024, which, yeah, is one of the worst things that I could have seen, and I think a lot of people have woken up. I think that's the one good thing that I see, that be it people working in Indian football, people who have worked in Indian football, people who are football fans, have realized what it was. We have spoken about it very often with Rahul. I warned about in 2023 about a lot of things. Sadly, I have to say most of the things have come true. Actually, no, it is actually worse than what I predicted. To me, 2025 is about opportunities and taking those opportunities. Let's not talk about vision, dream.
True.
That is the biggest problem. Let's talk pragmatic, realistic. I take an example of yesterday's Santosh Trophy final. Sanjay Sen won it because he took a pragmatic approach, right? So that's all. This is what we need. From Mano Marquez, I expect that he finds not the best, but the right players to get us results. Simple. I expect the aiff to sort out the mess which is there when it comes to the structure of Indian football, especially youth football. Why? Originally, when Satya, as the then acting general secretary, announced the plans, he said in September, youth leagues will start.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, you or anybody who's in the stream. I don't think any youth league has started anywhere here so far. The only thing that has started is the regional qualifiers of Reliance Foundation Development League. Plus, that's it.
Yes.
But that's not a youth league. That's a senior, under 21 league. The other thing is, my biggest fear is, there are two things which I fear. One is the Supreme Court giving its judgment on the constitution of the aiff. That constitution is a violation of international sports laws. It will not only drag down the aiff, it will also take the IOA in a very difficult position with the IOC. And that IOC, International Olympic Committee, has told the Indian Olympic Association. So that is one. Linked to is our elections, right? Because whatever Kalyan and the people are saying, this body actually was installed as an interim body to avoid a normalization committee coming in from FIFA in 2022. And looking at it now, 27 months later, most probably a normalization committee would have been better for India.
True.
And the other thing which I fear, aiff's contract with Reliance, with FSTL, runs out at the end of this year. And if that runs out, what is the potential future of, first of all, the Indian Super League, and secondly, of Indian football in general? Because I think the 50 crores that Reliance FSDL are paying the AFF is one thing, but
Hmm.
we don't realize how much of money they're spending on running and organizing the ISL, on running, let's say, the Reliance Foundation Developmental League, Reliance Foundation spending on their academy, on the grassroots program like the Nopang program in Mizoram.
Mizoram.
So we're talking about most probably ballpark figure, they're spending about 150 crores minimum, if not more,
Hmm.
which would
True.
not come into Indian football. Who's going to give you
Hmm.
that in today's environment? So these are very disturbing realities. But I hope always for the best. But we need to put the finger. I said that yesterday in my show. We need to put the finger in the wound.
Hmm.
We cannot just say, "Are with sunlight and with air, the wound will cover and all." No, we have to press out whatever is wrong, and otherwise things will not happen. And yeah, the right people need to come forward. There
Hmm.
are people who know, who I know, I speak to, who I tell that you now need to come forward and help Indian football. Um, Otherwise, it's being mentioned by Manolo, or Mehar has also mentioned it. Potentially, 2025 could be an even darker year. And
लेट्स नहीं
yeah,
नहीं सॉरी टू इंटरप्ट सर बट आपने ओवरव्यू आई थिंक जो आज का हमारा डिस्कशन है हम जो नेक्स्ट 1 आवर में करने वाले हैं उसका आई थिंक मेरे को लगता है कि ब्रॉडर जो सारा सिनारियो है वो आई थिंक आपने बता दिया रिगार्डिंग नेशनल टीम रिगार्डिंग आईएसएल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट विथ एफएसटीएल एंड एवरीथिंग रिगार्डिंग कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ एआईएफएफ एंड आई थिंक एज एक जनरल आपने पर्सपेक्टिव दे दिया है कि व्हाट आर द थिंग्स जो कि मतलब पॉसिबली जिसके डिसीजन 2025 में हो सकते हैं जिसके चलते इंडियन फुटबॉल को यहाँ पे इम्पैक्ट हो सकता है लेट्स डीप डाइव इनटू दी वन बाय वन फर्स्ट लेट्स टॉक अबाउट द नेशनल टीम बिकॉज जैसे आपने बोला कि और जैसे मयर भाई भी बोल रहे हैं हेलो टू एवरीवन गाइस जो भी हमारे साथ जुड़ रहे हैं रियलिस्टिक हम दोनों साइड दिखाने की कोशिश करेंगे इट्स नॉट लाइक कि हम सिर्फ यहाँ पे नेगेटिव बात करेंगे या फिर पॉजिटिव बात करेंगे कि ये हो सकता है ये हो सकता है लेट्स गिव दी फैंस क्लियर पिक्चर कि भाई इस इस सेक्शन का इंडियन फुटबॉल के इस फील्ड का क्या हो सकता है तो नेशनल टीम की अगर हम बात करें सब लोग बोल रहे हैं कि 2024 वाज द डार्कर ईयर ये वन ऑफ द वर्स्ट ईयर बट जैसे आपने बोला कि 2025 कैन बी अ even darker if India didn't qualify for AFC Asian Cup. That means we hit the lowest point. अगर हम एशियन कप भी क्वालिफाई नहीं कर पाते तो जो पिछले 4 5 6 7 या फिर इवन लास्ट 8 to 10 years में जो बोला जा रहा है कि वी हैव ग्रोन इन फुटबॉल वी हैव ग्रोन इन फुटबॉल अगर आप कंटिन्यूअसली कॉन्सिक्यूटिवली अगर आप एशियन कप भी क्वालिफाई नहीं कर पाते तो फिर तो वो जो वर्ल्ड कप वाला ड्रीम है आई डोंट थिंक सो कि वी हैव टू फिर उसके बारे में तो सोचना भी चाहिए हमें सो दैट्स द वन थिंग एंड दूसरा है आपका यहाँ पे ओवरऑल इंडियन फुटबॉल की तो हम बात करेंगे बट आप इसको कितना इंपोर्टेंट देते हो रिगार्डिंग दिस एशियन कप क्वालिफिकेशन बिकॉज इससे पहले यहाँ पे गुरप्रीत सिंह संधू को भी मैंने एक इंटरव्यू में सुना है संदेश सिंघार ने भी 1 2 साल पहले जो इंटरव्यू दिया था वहां पे बोला है कि एक हम इंडियन फुटबॉल में नेशनल टीम के पर्सपेक्टिव से हम बोले कि हमने नेक्स्ट स्टेप लिया है तो वो क्या है कि लगातार आपको एशियन कप में क्वालिफाई करना 2019 में किया 2020 आपने 3 में किया अगर हम ये तीसरी बार करते हैं तो आप एटलीस्ट ये बोल सकते हैं कि हम लगातार चलो एशियन कप लेवल तक तो जा रहे हैं खेलने के लिए वो एक कंपेयर टू हमारी जो पास्ट हिस्ट्री रही है उसके पर्सपेक्टिव में आप उसको काउंट कर सकते हो कि चलो भाई हम एशियन कप में लगातार क्वालिफाई कर पा रहे हैं सो कितना ये इंपॉर्टेंस है 2025 में इंडियन टीम का एशियन कप में क्वालिफाई करना
it is the most important thing. Period. It is not
हम्म,
about maybe, could be, for us as India, as Indian football. It is a must. It's not an option to say we don't qualify, right?
ट्रू
It is a 24 team tournament, and if India is not amongst 24 teams, best teams of Asia, of 24 teams who at least qualify for the tournament, um, it is yeah, it's an embarrassment of sorts. 2024 Asian Cup was already an embarrassment, right? The way we played, the way we behaved, the way we went through that tournament. It got worse in March against Afghanistan. I think that's the biggest low that I have seen in my career of involvement with Indian football. Losing to to Ashley, but that was a ragtag Afghanistan team. Our overplayed ISL players not unable to play against four players were without a club at the time of Afghanistan, right? So, and this is what I've been seeing for a while, Hiren. Again, I go back to our conversations with Rahul or with Akshata when we were talking 2023. Everybody was jumping up and down. I said, guys, sorry, I saw the team live twice in the SAF Cup semi-final, final. We're not good. At least we are fighting. That's why we're winning. But even that got lost at some stage in 2024. So the first question is, what are your decisions, AFF, in regard to the coach? That has been a problem. That was a problem. Igor Stimac should have been not even fired by this. It should have been fired by the old dispensary. He should have never been brought. Let's start with that. Manolo's now there. I can't change it. You can't change it. That's a reality. He has to now try and do the best he can. And he has to take tough calls, make certain decisions. One decision to me, which is very logical, if you see the last few weeks, Sunil Chhetri needs to be brought back. I did a video on my channel a few days ago about Ryan Williams. I think these are topics that need to be discussed. A PIO who's been playing 1.5 years on Indian shores. Can Park Jindal play a little bit of magic and maybe get him a passport quicker than others if he wants to? So for me, that is something that is a reality. And we need to find solutions because this current team, is not good enough. And, Mehar, yes, very, very valid point. If Bangladesh actually calls on the players, Hamza Chaudhary as the top of the pile, but if they are able to bring the players that they have, then Bangladesh is better than us, right? That's the reality. And about Sunil, Manolo, I'm not sure Sunil, if he's in no mood to come back. If there are certain things fulfilled, I think Sunil will want to come back because Sunil has a certain, if you see the fitness level of Sunil, if you see the way that Sunil is performing and also the agility, he's running for 90 minutes. Sunil looks fresher than he has been looking in the last 4 or 5 years. So therefore, that also for us most probably is a pickup. If Sunil rejoins the team, it is a bad sign for Indian football on one side. But on the other side, it could be the saving grace. But then, what is our plan B? We don't have a plan B. And that is what I think Igor Stimac is, here, and we've spoken multiple times about it in the past. When there was opportunities, Igor Stimac went in 23 and tried to win tournaments rather than giving your B strikers an opportunity or B or C strikers or whatever you have to try and play. That's the problem.
सॉरी, बीच में जितने भी लोग भाई जुड़े हो प्लीज लाइक एंड सब्सक्राइब कर देना स्ट्रीम को अगर अभी तक नहीं किया है। अरुण सर का भी जो चैनल है वो टाइटल में दिया है, उसको भी लाइक सब्सक्राइब कर दीजिए। एंड हम इंडियन फुटबॉल के 1 by 1 जो सारे टॉपिक है उसको हम कवर अप करेंगे कि 2025 में उसके क्या इम्पैक्ट और क्या चेंजेस उसमें हो सकते हैं। तो फर्स्ट वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट नेशनल टीम। तो मैं आपसे रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि आप अपने जो कॉमेंट है वो उसी के डायरेक्शन में रखें। पीओआई के बारे में बात करेंगे, एएफएफ के बारे में बात करेंगे, यूथ टीम्स के बारे में बात करेंगे, सारी चीजें, क्योंकि इट्स नॉट लाइक कि आप एक चीज के ऊपर फोकस करो। जैसे अभी यहाँ पे जिगजैग भाई बोल रहे कि भाई आपकी नो डाउट प्रायोरिटी यूथ फुटबॉल होनी चाहिए, बट इट डजंट मीन कि आप नेशनल टीम को भी यहाँ पे बिल्कुल प्रायोरिटी ना दो, बिकॉज एवरीथिंग इज इंटरलिंक्ड एंड सभी चीजें साइकिल में चलती है। आपको हर एक यहाँ पे चीजों के ऊपर उतना ही फोकस देना पड़ेगा एंड आपको प्रायोरिटी ही बना के रखनी पड़ेगी, तभी जाके एज ए होल आप जो सिस्टम डेवलप करना चाहते हो या फिर आगे बढ़ना चाहते हो वो तभी पॉसिबल है। सो अभी हम नेशनल टीम की बात कर रहे हैं, इंडियन सीनियर नेशनल टीम की। तो मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि आपके कमेंट उसके रिलेटेड होंगे तो ज्यादा हम कमेंट भी ले पाएंगे एंड आपका जो ओपिनियन है वो भी हमें भी जानने को मिलेगा एंड उसके बारे में हम आपको भी बता सकते हैं। सो आई कंप्लीटली एग्री सर कि मनोलो मार्केस एंड नेशनल टीम के लिए दैट शुड बी द ओनली प्रायोरिटी। उसके अलावा साफ चैंपियनशिप भी सर होगी इस बार 2025 में, लेकिन फर्स्ट प्रायोरिटी एंड अपमोस्ट जो आपका गोल होना चाहिए वो वही होना चाहिए कि भाई कैसे भी करके हम जब नवंबर में इस साल का लास्ट मैच खेले जो कि होगा एशियन कप क्वालिफायर्स का, नो डाउट उसके बाद एक मैच बचा होगा मार्च के लिए 2026, बट उससे पहले हमें हमारा क्वालिफिकेशन सिक्योर करना है कैसे भी करके। आपने बताया सुनील छेत्री के कमबैक के बारे में, डेफिनेटली सीइंग दी स्ट्राइकर क्राइसिस और यू कैन सी कि ओवरऑल फॉरवर्ड लाइन का जो क्राइसिस चल रहा है कि वी आर नॉट स्कोरिंग गोल्स, सो डेफिनेटली that is the one thing, but I think एट द मोमेंट तो कोई मेरे को नहीं लगता कि एएफएफ या फिर इवन मनोलो मार्केस की साइड की ओर से कोई मे बी टॉक्स या फिर इनिशिएटिव हुआ है कि वो सुनील छेत्री को कन्विंस करे रिगार्डिंग दी कमबैक इनटू द नेशनल टीम। आपको आपको क्या लगता है कि विल एएफएफ एंड मनोलो मार्केस अप्रोच सुनील छेत्री टू कम बैक और नहीं करेंगे?
I think Manolo at some stage in the coming weeks will have if he's not had it already when Goa played BFC, maybe they've already spoken about it. I've not heard anything so far, but maybe there has been an unofficial I think it's on the coach, because Manolo now has been long enough in India, he knows. I think if you look at the fans' perspective, people were calling for players XYZ to come and play national team. These players are good for 4 or 5 matches max, and then they disappear, right? That's a problem. Who do you pick, especially our wingers? I think Manolo Marquez could pick 30 wingers and shouldn't be playing any of them at the moment. That's the level of our wingers at the moment, right? So the issue here is also goalkeepers. I thought goalkeepers, we had 4, 5, 6 options. All of them are making blunders at the moment, right? So that's the concern, right? At the end of the day, that's the thing. The big concern is, who do you pick? Where do you pick? How do you pick? Right? Where is the creativity? Right? We speak about Brandon and Sahal, for example. Brandon has been very poor this season for Mumbai City, and
completely agree.
Sahal, it looks like Molina doesn't even know where to play him. Right? So we have basic issues, right? Mohammad Yasir could be an option, but Mohammad Yasir is in and out, injured, this and that, and
बट मेरे को लगता है कि सर मनोलो मार्केस, जैसे आपने बताया कि ही नोज इंडियन फुटबॉल, एंड अभी तक तो ऐसा कोई मतलब ऑफिशियली अनऑफिशियली कुछ एटलीस्ट हमें तो नहीं पता चला है कि भाई ऐसी कोई बात हुई है। बट आई थिंक मेरे को लगता है कि एक और महीना वो वेट करेगा ये जनवरी वाला, कि इसमें इंडियन जो फॉरवर्ड है जैसे चांगते हो गए, मनवीर हो गए, जो रेगुलर नेशनल टीम का हिस्सा रहे हैं, उनका फॉर्म कैसा रहता है। एंड आई थिंक देन अगर उनको उसको लगता है कि भाई नहीं इन लोगों से नहीं हो पाएगा, देन आई थिंक मेरे को लगता है कि हाई पॉसिबिलिटीज की ही विल अप्रोच सुनील छेत्री एंड मे बी कन्विंस हिम कि भाई एटलीस्ट आप ये क्वालिफायर्स तक तो टीम के साथ रहिए या फिर व्हाटएवर काइंड ऑफ थिंग, बिकॉज आपको मार्च में खेलना है। सो ही आई थिंक नेक्स्ट 1.5 मंथ में उसको आइडिया मिल जाएगा कि भाई क्या सीन है टीम का और कैसे कौन कौन से प्लेयर आपके फॉर्म में है।
Forget the form in the ISL. And I tell you why. Manveer has been a regular performer over the last few years for Mohun Bagan. But who is playing with him? He's either got Petratos, or now he's had Cummings, and then he has McLaren, and then he has Stewart with him. He's a different player. Right? Changte is a shadow of his own self. I'm very disappointed, because I thought, at the end of last season, maybe he's gotten to that level of consistency. He has not. I spoke about Brandon. Vikram is fighting, no level. Liston Colasso, I don't know, he's not even poor man's Cristiano Ronaldo anymore. I don't know, Jitin MS. A lot of people spoke about him. Jitin MS is not even starting for Northeast. He's been that poor for them, right? People were shouting last season about Jay Gupta. Jay Gupta is not even starting for his team. So Manolo Marquez by now will know. I'm sure he's intelligent enough. He knows where the team stands. And the question to me is, the coach, the big challenge for Manolo is to think and realize who amongst these players. We've got a pool of 40, 50 players. who can perform for me at international level, right? We've spoken about Isaac, for example. I like Isaac, but I look the physical angle of Isaac and think, you know what? If he has to play against, you know, origin players, looks difficult. Yeah,
difficult.
people have been talking about Mohamed Sanan, Niyal Sudesh, this, that. I said, physicality, international football, nahi hoga. Right? So this is what Stephen used to say. What this was used to be also what Bob Houghton. Stephen, for example, why would you always choose Holicharan Nazari? Might not be the best player in the ISL, but Holicharan Nazari internationally was able to physically go against the others. You know, so that is something where the coach needs to recognize. He don't go by the rule books, by the record books. You have to recognize who can deliver for me at international level. That's what former coaches used to say, and I agree with them. And have an understanding of how good or bad are they, right? So therefore, that is something which is very, very important in my opinion.
सो आई थिंक काफी सारे लोगों का भी एक कमेंट है एंड डेफिनेटली इट्स प्लेंटी ऑफ प्रॉब्लम फॉर मनोहर मार्केस टू एड्रेस एंड टू डिलीवर आल्सो. आई थिंक जो सितंबर अक्टूबर नवंबर वाली मैचेस थे उसमें तो चलो जो उन्होंने एक्सपेरिमेंट करने थे, और जो वियतनाम, मलेशिया या फिर सीरिया एंड मॉरिशस के सामने जैसा हम खेले, वहां पे तो उतना ज्यादा उसको क्रिटिसिज्म भी नहीं झेलने को मिला क्योंकि वो नए थे, ट्राई कर रहे थे एंड एवरीथिंग. लेकिन नाउ द रिजल्ट विल मैटर द मोस्ट. अब कैसा फुटबॉलिंग स्टाइल खेलोगे उससे ज्यादा मैटर करेंगे कि क्या आप इंडिया को रिजल्ट प्रोड्यूस करके दे सकते हो कि नहीं दे सकते. बिकॉज 2024 वी डिडंट विन अ सिंगल मैच. सो फर्स्ट चैलेंज फॉर हिम टू इज गेट दैट विन. एंड वो आई थिंक चैलेंज रहेगा. दूसरा, जैसे सर ने बताया प्रॉब्लम कि भाई फॉरवर्ड लाइन में इश्यू है एंड हमारे प्लेयरों का जिस तरह से सारा सीन चल रहा है. तो नेशनल टीम के लिए तो डेफिनेटली एशियन कप इज दी अपमोस्ट प्रायोरिटी एंड उसमें अगर उसमें उनको डिलीवर करना पड़ेगा. लेट्स टॉक अबाउट दी यूथ टीम्स. अंडर 23 भी 2025 में अंडर 23 एशियन कप खेलेंगे. इससे पहले 2023 में खेले थे. तो जो सितंबर वाला मंथ था जिसके बारे में हमने काफी बार बातचीत भी की है पास्ट में, तो सारा क्या बोलते कि इन लोगों ने मेस कर दिया था. सो अगेन एट द मोमेंट देयर इज नो अंडर 23 कोच एंड नो अंडर 23 टीम भी आप बोल सकते हो, बिकॉज आई डोंट थिंक कि उसके बाद टीम ने साथ में कभी खेला है आफ्टर दैट एशियन गेम्स एंड दैट एशियन कप क्वालिफायर्स इन सितंबर 2023. 2024 में आई थिंक एक भी मैच नहीं खेला अंडर 23 में. खेला है सर क्या?
नहीं.
तो अंडर 7 हम तीनों की बात कर लेते हैं. अंडर 23 के लिए एशियन कप क्वालिफायर्स है. अंडर 17 हमारी एशियन कप क्वालिफाई की नहीं है, लेकिन आई थिंक हर साल क्योंकि अब आपका एशियन कप एंड आपका वर्ल्ड कप होना है, तो अगेन 2025 में फिर से आप मतलब सेकंड हाफ ऑफ दी जो सीजन है उसमें आप फिर से सितंबर अक्टूबर के अराउंड में भी अंडर 17 एंड अंडर 20 एशियन कप क्वालिफाई खेलेंगे. So what's your expectation and what are the changes they need to bring in this under 17, 20 and 23?
Hiren, I'll speak about the under 17s first because this is a team that I have worked with in the past. I mean, in 2002 helped them to organize the first ever camp in Europe here in Germany. And since then, under 17 World Cup with the German FA, we brought Nikolai Adam in. They spend more time here in Germany than in India. They've come back. Even Bibiano was here in 2023 with the team. But I already saw in 2023, the team that I saw in Stuttgart, with all respect to the players, that was the worst that I've seen on German soil. And remember, Ashish Negi was there. I also told Ashish, I said, this is the best team in town. So our problem is that what the academies and clubs, and this is the other thing, AFF has to take a part of the blame. But the real blame is on the academies and on the clubs of what are you doing at grassroots and youth football. Because
Coaches.
Without grassroots and youth football, at least the players who are coming through were much, much better. Illogical. Every 2 years, Tata Football Academy used to produce more players every 2 years. Those 25 so-called cadets, Kalyan Chaube is one of them. Renedy Singh, Mahesh Goli, Deepak Mandal, even one of the latest would have been Udanta. All of them have been part of this, right? And the point here is that the under 17 got a lot of support and a lot of exposure over that last decade. Right?
True.
Let's say up to 23, regularly. The team used to train 8-9 months, right? Outside of, they used to train with the academies, and then they used to train with the national team for a certain period of time, the best players.
बट इसमें सर मैं जानना चाहता हूँ, जैसे आपने अंडर 17 का मेंशन किया, तो एएफएफ का रोल है कि आपको उसको कंपटीशन देना, जो कि एएफएफ जैसे हमने स्टार्ट में आपने बात की कि अभी तक आपका यूथ लीग स्टार्ट नहीं हुआ है, जबकि आप बोल रहे थे कि 9 महीने का आपका लीग होने वाला है, आप अभी तक अंडर 17 यूथ लीग स्टार्ट नहीं कर पाया है। सो एएफएफ का प्रॉब्लम वो है कि आप उसको कंपटीशन नहीं दे पा रहे हो, आप उसको एक एक वो क्या बोलते कि जो कॉम्पिटिटिव मैचेस चाहिए वो नहीं दे पा रहे हो। दूसरा उनका है कि आपने इस साल से जो 23-24 का बजट है उसमें, सॉरी 24-25 का बजट है, उसमें जो यूथ साइड से नेशनल टीम उसका बजट कट डाउन कर दिया है। तो दैट मीन्स जैसे आपने बोला 2023 तक, एटलीस्ट फ्रॉम दैट फीफा अंडर 17 वर्ल्ड कप 2016-17 टू 2023 हमारी जो अंडर 17 साइड से उनको काफी सारे एक्सपोजर मैचेस मिले हैं, इंडिया में भी मिले हैं,
इवन
आउटसाइड भी।
बिफोर हिरेन 2012-13 से मिल रहे थे,
यस।
So
बट
for a decade, they
हाँ
were going regularly abroad, coming to Europe, going across Asia. I mean, you don't have to come to Europe. In the past, the under 17s regularly used to go either to Doha or to Dubai. Even they've gone to Saudi. All of that is not happening, right? So the problem is multi-level. One, the players coming out through the system from the clubs and the academies is worse. That is one problem. The second problem is the aiff youth leagues, which were supposed to grow, has actually been shrunk, right? And there is no initiative also at a local level, which is state level, to try and organize yourself, to try and organize that exposure. Right?
Yes.
So that is, and again, the aiff should be blamed, yes, but it is also on the state associations and on the clubs and the academies. For example, why does BFC, for example, organize that JSW Youth Cup wala, under 15, under 13? Because their teams are not getting enough matches. So they're trying to get the best academies together and play matches. That is the way forward. That is the only way forward given the realities in an Indian context. Right? So our problem is at youth level, national team, for example, we do not have a full-time coach. All the coaches are now, except senior men's national team coach, every other coach is a 2, 3, 4 month contract max. Right? Ishfaq aaye the, Ishfaq gaya. Ranjan Chaudhary aaya, gaya. Santosh Kashyap aaya, gaya. Nobody knows kab gaya. Suddenly, Joachim Alexanderson, who's actually under 20, under 17 women's coach, suddenly coaching senior national team.
Senior team, yes.
And that is the problem. And this non-communication also. I mean, when I saw, for example, India playing Maldives, I said, "Okay, Maldives is not the best nation, but take a khelte." And then that press is Joachim Alexanderson announces his squad. But is India under 20 khel rahe kya? And then I realized, no, the women's are playing with the senior team. That is part of the problem, right? How did he suddenly become? I am fine with it because you saw against the Maldives, right, that this guy has a certain way, a philosophy of playing football. You saw that automatically.
Football, yes.
And this was a younger group of girls, right? So that's the problem, right? A basic youth coach in Europe is better than the best coaches that we have, Indian coaches at the top level. That is an even bigger problem than anything else we have. Our coaching is so bad. These coaches are praising each other. Aap to ye karte hai, aap wo karte, aap ye kiya, aap wo kiya. Guys, I'm not going to use the word, but anyway, let me not use the word that I would like to use.
अंडर 17 की बात की, बट वो जो हमने इसके बारे में वैसे पास में बात की हुई है, जो हमको बड़ा डिफरेंशिएट दिखता है बाकी कंट्रीज में और हमारी प्लेयरों में, कि अंडर 17 में के बाद जो प्रोग्रेस होना चाहिए वो नहीं दिखता है, एंड दैट clearly reflect on the our India under 20 and under 23. So what are the possible solution for them? Because under 23 एशियन कप आई थिंक आपको पता ही है कि 2025 में आपको खेलने हैं, अभी तक आपका कोई कोच नहीं है, कुछ टीम आपने कभी साथ में नहीं खिलाई है, एंड जब क्वालिफायर्स आएंगे यू विल यू कैन से कि एक आप टीम इकट्ठा कर लोगे एंड फिर आप उसको खिला दोगे एंड फिर एक्सपेक्ट करेंगे कि हम एशियन कप खेलें, अंडर यूथ एशियन कप खेलने पड़ेंगे. सो उसके बारे में क्या आपके थॉट है अंडर 20 एंड 23? क्योंकि इसके बारे में ज्यादा बात नहीं होती, अंडर 17 की बात काफी बार करते हैं हम, बट ये भी दो काफी इंपॉर्टेंट रोल प्ले करते हैं.
Under 20 is a and 23s is a different case because under 20s and under 23s, at least the players are playing. You know, not playing. Let's put it this way: the under 20, under 23s, most of them sitting on benches in the ISL.
ISL, true.
so that's the reality. Under 20s, at least some are now playing in the Reliance Foundation Development League. So that's at least that's at least something. You know, that is something that is a bit of it's not a bit of it's a problem. The under 20s also have been pulled together. That is not happening properly. So for me, the first thing is under 17, under 20. Under 23, again, I think under 23, I would make it a B team of the Indian national team. True. Right? That way, exactly. Interconnect. Right? Because a lot of my younger players in the national team actually could be main players of the under 23s. That's done. True. Yeah. In Europe, for example, under 21s, no? The interconnectivity between those teams. Sometimes even senior national team players will say, mere paas to they'll be only on the bench. I put them into the under 23s or under 21s even, right? So this should be there. So for me, that is the problem, right? That is the problem of how is my national team structure. I used to have an own proper national team department, and that used to run and manage. So that has been cut down as well, and that is visible. That I've reduced the cost for my national teams. The blame also has to go to the government. Sorry to say that, but the government support for Indian national team or youth national teams has gone down to a minimum. If you look at how much the government supported the under 17 World Cup team, boys and girls, that was a massive support. But also one should not forget, for example, under 17s, I have to especially thank the German Football Federation, the DFB, who helped us. Nikolai Adams, part of his salary was picked up to them. We trained here in extended camps in Duisburg, but Aibling and other places in Frankfurt for, where we paid half of the cost. So that is also, all that doesn't exist. The AFF has so-called MOUs with countries, but doesn't utilize them. I at least, sorry to say that, I at least in the past tried to utilize them. Now, for example, a lot of people forget, we had a German Bundesliga referee in the ISL for 3 matches 5 years ago. Right? So exactly. That's the thing.
यूथ फुटबॉल में तो डेफिनेटली आई थिंक एएफएफ के लिए या फिर ओवरऑल इंडियन फुटबॉल के लिए 25 में जैसे हमने जो पॉइंट डिस्कस किए, दैट शुड बी द प्रायोरिटीज की एक तो कंपटीशन वाइज यहाँ पे एएफएफ को अपनी ओर से जो यूथ लीग से अंडर 13, 15, 17 उनकी इसको एक एक्सटेंशन पीरियड में करनी चाहिए. बाकी जो क्लब साइड से या फिर स्टेट लेवल पे इस तरह के जो अंडर 17, 20 या फिर उस तरह के टूर्नामेंट है उसको ज्यादा बढ़ाना चाहिए. कोचिंग इज वन ऑफ द बिगेस्ट थिंग जो आई थिंक डेफिनेटली फोकस पॉइंट रहना चाहिए अगर हमें बेटर प्लेयर प्रोड्यूस करना है तो. नाउ लेट्स मूव ऑन टू द टॉपिक जो कि आई थिंक फैंस काफी ज्यादा जिसके बारे में जानना चाहते हैं. तो लेट्स स्पिल द बीन्स रिगार्डिंग पीओआई ओसीआई प्लेयर, बिकॉज कुछ दिनों में कुछ महीनों में हियर एंड देयर वो लोग उसके बारे में उत्सुक हो जाते हैं कि भाई, एंड अभी तो जैसे मौसम चल रहा है कि भाई हमारे आसपास के कंट्रीज
can we take that last statement with no good players develop currently is the wrong statement? No, it's not. I have seen youth football, I have seen the youth national teams, and you earlier mentioned about scouting. Listen, India used to run without scouting. The scouting term is a big one. Without scouting, we were better than with scouting. And that is illogical. Exactly. Illogical, right? So we have a problem, right? We have a problem on that all, and this is again, every stakeholder in Indian football needs to look at him or herself, and also the players need to look at themselves, right? They all watch international football. They all think that they will be Ronaldo, Messi, Mbappe, Neymar, and Holland, whatever, right?
mm,
But I always have been telling kids for the last 5, 6 years, whenever I go to academies, that try and be a Baichung, try to be a Sunil first. But when I go to
mm,
academies, and I remember when I went to Round Glass, I saw that 5, 6 years ago, the level
mm.
of footballers who are coming through at the moment is worse. How
True.
how can that be? So our talent pool has grown exponentially over the last 10 years, right? If in the past you
Mm,
had 100 players to choose from, TK, right? You try to pick the best from 100. Now you have
mm,
tens of thousands and the talent pool is less. So then the issue is not coaching to hai 100%.
mm,
Competitions 100%, but it's also on the each individual player. Baichung Bhutia and Sunil Chetri were as good because Baichung Bhutia, Sunil Chetri, forget all of them who went abroad. Gurpreet Singh Sandhu I put into the mix. All of them
mm,
realized that their standard was not good enough. Sunil Chetri said in the podcast, he said, right, the Sporting Lisbon coach told me, I am captain of India, you're not good enough.
mm.
Usko
True.
bola, right? And he was playing with Eric Dyer, Bruma, and all these guys who are now top level professionals,
Mm,
right? He was not a kid. So that is another problem that the kids themselves need to wake up to reality and need to be better. They think we have players, national team players who want to play abroad, who think they can play in La Liga, Bundesliga, and Premier League.
mm,
What are they? I don't. What are they? Where? What are they drinking or what are they smoking? I don't know. Reality check nahi hai.
mm,
I challenge every Indian national team player. Come to Germany, come to my hometown Remscheid, come to FC Remscheid, sixth division. Used to play second Bundesliga in the past. You will not play in the sixth division. You know why? Because 90% of the kids who play in our team used to play under 19, under 17 Bundesliga. They have the basics right. Our
mm,
basics are wrong, right? And thinking of
mm,
doing some Neymar tricks or Cristiano Ronaldo tricks and all will not do. We celebrate
mm.
even in the ISL, we celebrate nutmegs, right? That is not football. Sorry, guys.
True, true. That's the harsh reality. But let's talk about the
Sorry, yeah.
pure OCI because fans eagerly wants to
Hmm.
know about it because of recent development, particularly in Bangladesh कि वे हमजा चौधरी उनके लिए available हो गया है, and in future definitely they will try to bring some other origin player also. So do you have any hope in 2025 कि इंडिया POI OCI के बारे में कुछ डेवलपमेंट होगा? बिकॉज लेट्स नॉट डिस्कस अबाउट कि ये पॉसिबल है कि नहीं है, वो तो हमने काफी बार डिस्कस कर लिया है कि ये पॉसिबल है एंड देयर आर इनफ वेज टू, अगर आपकी वो इंटेंशन है तो उसको कर सकते हो आप अलाउ। नाउ लेट्स टॉक अबाउट कि भाई क्या 2025 में गवर्नमेंट, क्योंकि बिगेस्ट स्टेक होल्डर इन दिस थिंग इज मेरे को लगता है कि गवर्नमेंट, बिकॉज फाइनल डिसीजन उनको लेना है। नो डाउट एएफएफ इज हिज रोल, और यू कैन से कि इन क्लब लेवल ऑल्सो सम ऑफ द इन्फ्लुएंशियल पीपल हैव देयर रोल कि भाई गवर्नमेंट को वो जाके बताए कि भाई व्हाट इज द इम्पोर्टेंट ऑफ ब्रिंगिंग दिस प्लेयर्स एंड किस तरह से इससे फुटबॉल का लैंडस्केप इंडिया में चेंज हो सकता है। बट आपको क्या लगता है कि 2025 में पॉसिबल हो पाएगा? क्योंकि आज ही फर्स्ट दिन के फर्स्ट डे है आज 2025 का, एंड लेट्स स्पिल द बीन्स कि भाई होगा कि नहीं होगा, बिकॉज इसके बाद फैंस को फिर वो नहीं होना चाहिए कि भाई क्या पीओए के बारे में क्या अपडेट है।
The situation as it stands today is it's a big no, right?
हम्म, हम्म,
As of today, January 1st, 2025, players of Indian origin are not in a situation to represent the Indian national team,
हम्म,
right? But on the other side, um, conversations have happened. Conversations have been happening. Um, so therefore, again, that's why a few days ago I did the story on Ryan
रेन
Williams.
विलियम्स।
I think a lot of people didn't even realize that Ryan Williams' mother is Indian. It's a Mumbai-born woman. So there will be a move at some stage. The question is, will it be this year? Will it be next year? But I think in the next 2-3 years, things will change. I can't tell you why, but again, I know a little bit more. So things will at some stage happen.
आई थिंक आपको लगता है कि सीइंग द और सराउंडिंग कंट्रीज डूइंग थिंग्स लाइक पाकिस्तान, श्रीलंका, बांग्लादेश विल हैव अ इम्पैक्ट बिकॉज अगर आप देखें कि बांग्लादेश लेट्स सपोज कि नेक्स्ट 1 ईयर में मैं ये नहीं बोल रहा कि सीधा इंडिया के सामने, बट नेक्स्ट 1 ईयर में मे बी 3-4 प्लेयर्स को कन्विंस कर पाते हैं. श्रीलंका भी है ऑलरेडी सीन की भाई वो तो 11 में से 8-9-10 प्लेयर खिलाने लगे हैं. सो मे बी इन फ्यूचर दे विल ट्राई टू ब्रिंग मोर. पाकिस्तान इज ऑल्सो इन दैट डायरेक्शन. सो इन कंट्रीज का इम्पैक्ट क्या इंडिया के ऊपर होगा, इंडिया के डिसीजन में, आई वुड से.
It can be an impact. Um, um, it could have, let's put it this way, it could have an impact. But I think the point is not just football, but I think it is India's bid for the Olympics. And if you look at the Olympic charter, players of origin representing countries or people without passports representing countries happen in Olympics. You just have to look at the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing, where the so-called Chinese ice hockey team was de facto a team of Russians, Americans, and Canadians. Right? So the point here is that's what I'm saying, that changes will happen because of India's Olympic bid. That if the government of India is serious on hosting the Olympics, there's a lot of things that they will have to fulfill, because it is not that the Indian government dictates, but if you see how Olympics are awarded and given,
आई थिंक इट्स मोर लाइक कि जैसे कतार में वर्ल्ड कप हुआ और उसमें उन्होंने कुछ मतलब नो डाउट कि मैं ये नहीं बोल रहा कि सब कुछ उन्होंने चेंज कर दिया, बट जो उनके ऊपर क्वेश्चन उठ रहे थे रिगार्डिंग दिस वो एक्सप्लॉइटेशन ऑफ लेबर एंड उनको जो मतलब कुछ वर्ल्ड कप होस्ट करने के लिए जो कुछ फ्रीडम देने पड़े, अपने रूल्स में चेंज करने पड़े, या फिर सऊदी जब करेगा तब वो भी कुछ जो कंट्री के रूल्स है उनके अगेंस्ट जाके उनको कुछ यहाँ पे अलाउ करना पड़ा. तो सिमिलर सी चीज इंडिया को भी करनी पड़ेगी इफ दे वांट टू होस्ट दी ओलंपिक की भाई जो इंटरनेशनल रूल्स एंड चार्टर है उसको आपको यहाँ पे क्या बोलते हैं अलाउ करना ही पड़ेगा. सो वर्किंग विद भाई समर भाई, आप भाई विदाउट नोइंग एनीथिंग, विदाउट ऑल दी यू कैन से कि बैकग्राउंड नॉलेज, आप सिर्फ बोल दो कि कुछ नहीं होगा, ऐसी चीजें नहीं होती. देयर इज सम डेवलपमेंट. और आप जो बोल रहे कि कोई प्लेयर आने के लिए रेडी नहीं है, देयर आर अ कपल ऑफ प्लेयर्स हु ऑलरेडी पब्लिकली आल्सो मेंशन कि दे वांट टू
listen, there
रिप्रेजेंट.
are lots of players. It's funny, you know, that you guys seem to know things, but you've never been involved in these things, right? Again, and you know, the thing is that if you want to host the Olympics, and it'll be interesting. That's why I said we go back to the whole discussion about the constitution of the IOA and the constitution of aiff and all other sporting bodies. That is going to be the first thing that will be discussed, you know. And there will be issues in regard to taxation, right? Which the IOC comes around where nothing will be taxable. FIFA World Cup is the same thing. FIFA takes all the profits out of the countries. Otherwise, FIFA would not be able to run, right? And there are things in regard to eligibility of representing countries. And if India will not be willing to do that, India does not have to bid for the Olympics, right? Nobody's waiting for us, right? It doesn't matter. Nobody waits for any country in international sports. You have to adopt to be able to host events. That's what Hiren, what you said, no? Qatar. I went in Qatar the first time in 2011 at the Asian Cup. 2011 Qatar and 2025 today's Qatar is a different thing. Now, as per
Hmm.
European standards, Qatar has not developed enough. But if I look
Hmm.
at it at the speed of Qatar, Qatar has come a long, long way from where it was in 2011. It is now in
Hmm.
2025. You mentioned Saudi, the same thing will happen. So, therefore, if India wants to be part of the global sporting
Thing-
picture,
Events. Hmm.
events, calendar, it has to change. And the best example, for example, India did not want to adopt things, is Formula One, right?
Hmm.
So,
True.
so,
True.
so that is something where Formula One said to India, either you give us how we do it around the world, or we don't. And they've
Don't.
even taken away races in Italy or in Germany, right? So
Hmm.
therefore, these sporting global bodies run in a certain way. If it's right or wrong, totally different discussion. But they have a
Discussion.
certain way.
True.
And therefore,
Hmm.
if India doesn't, for example, it is very clearly in the IOC charter that origin people can represent countries in sports. Why? Because they do not want the home nation in Olympics to embarrass itself. See how many
Hmm. Hmm.
Americans became Chinese before the Winter Olympics in Beijing.
Hmm.
In other sports, the Chinese are better than the rest of the world. They get the most gold medals. But in winter
Hmm.
sports, China is a very small fish. So
Hmm.
therefore, we need to understand if India is as good as they are at the moment in in Olympic sports, India
Hmm.
will not be hosting the next. I mean, not even forget 2035. They will not be hosting an Olympics in the next 20, 30 years.
Hmm.
This is what you need to understand. And PIOs and OCIs, it's relatively easy. Why am I saying this? Because I started the discussion. The first time I talked about this was in 2001 with the AFF and with the then government. 206, my PIO card went to FIFA. We checked it. There are certain things that FIFA said you needed to amend to make it possible. The same thing still applies today. And it's very, very simple. It needs an amendment of the Citizenship Act, uh, where and it's not a football thing. It's generally in sports. It's football will be one of the benefit. Football and tennis most probably would be the two biggest beneficiaries of this
Biggest.
sport.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, and the point is, it's in our interest. It is in nobody
Hmm.
else's interest. If we don't do this, if we think 2024 was a bad year for Indian football, if we don't
Hmm.
change things in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, we will say 2024 are actually a good year for us.
लेट्स शिफ्ट टू दी सिमिलर टॉपिक जो कि पीओओसी के बारे में तुमने बात कर ली कि 2025 में क्या पॉसिबिलिटीज है एंड आगे क्या हो सकता है उसी के अराउंड जो आपने आईओए के वो जो चार्टर की बात की तो लेट्स टॉक अबाउट द एएफएफ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन आल्सो बिकॉज उससे भी इंडियन फुटबॉल का 25 में काफी ज्यादा चेंजेस देखने को मिल सकते हैं इफ सुप्रीम कोर्ट गिव्स इज फाइनल वर्डिक्ट ऑन द न्यू कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन जिसमें आपने बोला कि जो नया कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है उसमें भी कुछ ऐसी चीजें हैं जो फीफा एएफसी के जो स्टेटस है उनको वायलेट करती है जबकि इससे पहले जो नागेश्वर राव आई थिंक फॉर्मर सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जज है उसको अपॉइंट किया गया था उन्होंने एक स्टेटमेंट दिया था मीडिया हाउसेस को कि यहाँ पे हमने जो नया कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बनाया है यहाँ पे या फिर जो उन्होंने रिव्यू किया है वो उन्होंने बोला कि एएफसी और उन सब से वो लिया गया है एंड रिसेंटली हमने देखा जो नेशनल स्पोर्ट बिल भी आने वाला है यहाँ पे अपकमिंग पार्लियामेंट्री सेशन में तो उसमें भी एएफसी ने अभी रेड फ्लैग बताया है कि भाई ये सारी चीजें है वो यहाँ पे वायलेशन है सो हाउ डू यू सी होल दिस सिचुएशन रिगार्डिंग एएफएफ न्यू कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन आपको क्या लगता है कि कब तक सुप्रीम कोर्ट इसका 2025 में क्या हमें इसका जजमेंट देखने को मिल सकता है क्या इससे जो वायलेट हो रही है चीजें उससे अनदर बैन आ सकता है एंड अनदर थिंग इज कि जैसे ये एडॉप्ट होगा उससे नया इलेक्शन भी आएगा सो देयर इज ए पॉसिबिलिटीज कि भाई आपको एआईएफ की लीडरशिप की भी चेंजेस देखने को मिल सकते हैं सो हाउ डू यू सी होल दिस थिंग बिकॉज इससे आई थिंक 2025 में काफी सारी चीजें चेंज भी हो सकती है सडनली जैसे 2022 था कि वो जो बैन आया एंड सडनली सब कुछ चेंज हो गया
See, the problem is the reality is that it has not been understood over the last 2.5 years that the way the Indian government and the Indian courts think that sports should be regulated is acceptable to international sporting bodies. Very simple. They want to keep an influence. Theoretically, the government and the courts can influence the sporting bodies. There's one thing around the world. It doesn't matter if it's a democracy, if it is an autocracy, if it is a dictatorship, whatever it is. Somewhat sporting bodies run independently. I take most probably the most repressive regime in the world, North Korea, right? Their football federation is successful. Their under 17 women's and under 20 women's are world
World
champions.
champion.
Huh?
True.
So, if it can happen in North Korea, from which we are far, far away,
Away.
right? Then we need to understand what needs to be there. I think it's also now been proven that former athletes in sporting bodies is the most wrong thing to have. Right? And the thing is, sports, the system is not perfect, clearly not perfect, because yes, around the world, people who are politicians or business people influence it. But we see a very good example at the moment is Indonesia, right? Where one of the richest men crazy about football, Eric Thohir, becomes sports minister, and with the PSSI, is using even his own money, private money, to push the best Indonesian origin talent to come. The only thing is Gianni Reinders of AC Milan. Is the only one that they missed. And that guy is looks like he could be world class down the road. So that is something that is very, very clear, that you have to have the right leadership at ministry level and understanding how sports is structured. Allow it to run and grow, and let sports professionals run it, not politicians, not bureaucrats, not ex-athletes, people who understand sports. And that is the problem in an Indian context.
एक मैं पॉइंट नहीं, एक जो आप बोल रहे हो बिल्कुल आपने सही बोला उसमें, क्योंकि इसका मैं एक एग्जांपल देता हूँ. मैं अभी वो जो ड्राफ्ट नेशनल स्पोर्ट बिल है उसको मैं कुछ दिन पहले पढ़ रहा था. उसमें स्टार्टिंग में मेंशन किया गया है कि भाई कहाँ से ये जो ड्राफ्ट बिल है उसके कहाँ से सजेशन लिया गया है कि भाई कौन कौन से जो बाकी वर्ल्ड बॉडी में जो क्या बोलती कि जो रूल्स है उसको एडॉप्ट किया गया. तो उसमें उन्होंने मेंशन किया था आईओए के चार्टर को, आईओसी के चार्टर को, कि उनके जो रूल्स एंड रेगुलेशन है उसके अकॉर्डिंग हमने ये जो स्पोर्ट बिल है वो बनाया है. तो फिर ये पीटी उषा ने ये क्वेश्चन क्यों उठाया कि भाई आपने इसमें कुछ ऐसे चीजें हैं कि जो भाई आईओसी के चार्टर को भी वायलेट करता है. आप इतने इंटेलिजेंट लोग, आप ब्यूरोक्रेट्स बैठे हैं, सब कुछ ये बिल ड्राफ्ट कर रहे हैं, आपने उनका सब कुछ समझा है, एंड उसके बावजूद भी भाई एक क्यों चीज आ रही है. अब चलो आपने फीफा का नहीं उठाया क्योंकि सबसे बड़ा यहाँ पे क्या बोलते हैं कि आप बोल सकते हैं कि ब्लंडर है, क्योंकि आप फुटबॉल को फिर वो आईओसी के एंगल से नहीं देख सकते. यू हैव टू लुक इट इनटू द फीफास रूल्स एंड रेगुलेशन. तो ये पॉइंट ही आप कैसे मिस कर सकते हो? जहां से आपने उठाया है वहीं से आप उन्हीं का वायलेशन कैसे कर रहे हो फिर? तो ये बिल्कुल सही बात है कि
Hiren, they didn't take it from there, na. It raises questions about the sports ministry, about the bureaucrats, about the legal fraternity, and about the courts. Right? This is the question which one needs to look at, right? Because otherwise things will not be working in the right direction. And there are a lot of problems across the system. But if in Germany there's a saying, if the fish stings from the head, just forget the rest, right? That is the first problem. But your problem is, right? The problem is on this thing is, the blame is always put on the aiff, and very rightly so on one side. But the blame should be shared by everybody within the system. And even us, who are questioning it, or not us, rather the fanboys who are, supporting the system or whatever, or making it great, right?
Hmm.
The fans. Someone was telling me the other day, oh, our biggest success was that India played in the 23 Asian Games. I said that is the biggest failure of Indian football fans.
Failure, हाँ हाँ.
And I showed him a video which you and I and Rahul had done at the time, where I raised this question.
नहीं
Asian
नहीं
Games,
सर,
send the under-20s.
that shows the knowledge about the how football works and what are the tournaments जो important है फुटबॉल के. आपको अगर एस्टेब्लिश होना है कि आप भाई वर्ल्ड फुटबॉल में कुछ अच्छी टीम हो, तो उसके लिए कौन से टूर्नामेंट आपको एम करने हैं, वो तो पहले आपको पता होना चाहिए कि कहाँ पे आप परफॉर्मेंस करोगे, तो वर्ल्ड फुटबॉल के जो लोग हैं वो नोटिस करेंगे कि हाँ भाई इंडिया भी अब फुटबॉल में आगे बढ़ चुका है. एशियन गेम्स में अगर आप गोल्ड मेडल भी लाओगे तो भी भाई लोग नहीं बोलेंगे कि भाई फुटबॉल में इंडिया आगे बढ़ चुका है. यू हैव टू एस्टैब्लिश योर सेल्फ इन दी एशियन कप, वर्ल्ड कप, या फिर आपके प्लेयरों को भाई जाके यहाँ पे बड़ी लीगों में खेलना पड़ेगा. दैट इज दी ओनली वे. तो यही सबसे पहला, आपने बिल्कुल सही बोला कि यही लोगों के पास सबसे पहला तो यही नहीं पता है कि भाई कौन से टूर्नामेंट फुटबॉल के लिए इंपॉर्टेंट है. दे आर
That
प्रायोरिटाइजिंग.
is like in Kolkata today, everyone celebrates Santosh Trophy win,
हाँ
but
एग्जैक्टली,
realize that
एग्जैक्टली.
Santosh Trophy is an amateur tournament, in my
टूर्नामेंट.
opinion. It is nowhere near of the importance than it had in the past. So that is part of the problem. And the other problem is, if I go back in history, 1950 to me, the problems of today were started in 1950. And I say, why? We turned down the offer from FIFA to come as a replacement team to the 1950 World Cup in Brazil. FIFA would have covered a flying cost. Huh? KLM would have flown us from India via to Brazil, whatever, different flying routes those days. Biggest mistake. Bollywood is making about Rahim Saab a film where we're playing Asian Games and Olympics. What happened in 1950? The world shifted to World Cups, right? I mean, I say this because here in Germany, 1954 is the year that West Germany, got its identity back after the Second World War. Adi Dassler, the man behind Adidas, created those studs, those metal studs you could turn. 1954 is that year, right? We were playing till 1960 we played Olympics, and 1962 we celebrated our last Asian Games gold. And the world moved in the 50s to FIFA World Cups, and in the 1960s Asia moved to the AFC Asian Cup. So we missed the bus, right?
We stuck to the Asian Games and Olympics.
Yeah, because Olympics and Asian Games, we're still talking about it, right? As being a priority.
True. हमारे प्रेसिडेंट बोलते हैं एम है 26 एशियन गेम्स.
So this is the sad part of realities of Indian football. Our priorities are wrong. The leadership doesn't know what it's doing, but the other stakeholders don't know. I mean, if someone tells me, and that's what I ask questions nowadays, right? And I ask, have we produced in the last 20-30 years an Asian level footballer? And as good as Sunil has been for us, Sunil has been a servant for us. And Sunil has an incredible track record. But Sunil Chhetri is not an Asian level striker, sorry. Right? Baichung Bhutia was not an Asian level striker. I have to be that brutal. We have to be that brutal to ourselves. Right? Because if I add up against whom he scored most of the goals were against South Asian teams or against Myanmar. Right? They're not scoring regularly against the Japan or a Korea or a Saudi or a Iraq or a Australia or a Qatar or Iran, right? That's the reality. It's not nice, but these are realities. So
it's
all
hard
this
to digest.
Very hard to digest. But these are, if we don't if we don't retrospect, if we don't introspect, if we don't look at where we are, and then decide, a pragmatic approach, a realistic approach, we will not get anywhere. And the point is that whoever runs the AIF, I see that Rangers writing Indian politicians should be removed. No, you can't. I think at the end of the day, you need an influential politician who can influence the government to give you the help,
Hmm.
if you like it or not. Priyaranjan
I
Das
think
Munshi, I have seen. Listen, the guy made in front of me, made a phone call and got a sponsor for the NFL. Right? He told, he was a minister at the time. Praful Patel has done that as well. Kalyan Chaube does not have that influence, if I like it or not, but I
influence.
need that kind of a
Hmm.
guy. Or
Guy
I need
actually.
a guy who's running the federation, who's so rich that he can actually pay stuff out of his own pocket if it's not done. That is what is happening in Indonesia by Eric Thohir. So therefore, we
Hmm.
need to be realistic. I again, if I say tomorrow Hiren को sports minister बना देते हैं, great.
Hmm.
Or football federation president Hiren को बना देते हैं. He knows what to do, but he doesn't have the money to do it.
Money.
हाँ,
True.
हिरेन में से अरे मेरे पैसे से 100 rupees ले लो. Let's see how far we get with that.
I think structure जो I think हम बात कर रहे हैं रिगार्डिंग AFF कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, आई थिंक जो नई लीडरशिप अगर 2025 में सुप्रीम कोर्ट का जजमेंट आता है तो लेट्स एज अ इंडियन फुटबॉल फैन हमें प्रे करना चाहिए कि या तो कोई बड़ा पॉलिटिशियन, लेट्स से नंबर 2 नंबर 3 टाइप इन गवर्नमेंट, इन सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट, ऐसा बंदा बने, या फिर जैसे सर ने बोला कोई ऐसा इन्फ्लुएंशियल यहाँ पे बंदा बने जो काफी रिच हो एंड जो कि गवर्नमेंट में भी अपना से क्या बोलते हैं काम निकलवा सकता हो, ऐसा बंदा प्रेसिडेंट चाहिए। एंड उसके जो नीचे जो बंदे हैं ना वो फुटबॉल नॉलेज वाले चाहिए, जो जनरल सेक्रेटरी है, और वो बंदे ऐसे चाहिए कि जो जानता हो कि भाई कैसे फुटबॉल सिस्टम डेवलप किया जाए, कैसे उसका स्ट्रक्चर होना चाहिए, ताकि वो उसको गाइड कर पाए कि भाई सर हमें ये चीज चाहिए, आप गवर्नमेंट से हमें ये चीज दिलवाओ, मैं यहाँ पे ये चीजें एग्जीक्यूट करता हूँ। दिस इज द कॉम्बिनेशन वी नीड, एंड वो हमारे पास उस तरह का कॉम्बिनेशन अभी नहीं है, एंड दैट्स वाई पिछले 2 साल में हमारा बेड़ा गर्क हो चुका है, क्योंकि जैसे सर ने बोला कि कल्याण चौबे इज नॉट उस खुद पार्टी का, उसी पार्टी का बंदा है जो गवर्नमेंट रन कर रही है, लेकिन स्टिल ही इजंट दैट इन्फ्लुएंस कि वो गवर्नमेंट से भाई बजट भी नहीं बढ़वा पाया। प्रफुल्ल पटेल was in opposition and he still gets the more AFF budget from government than Kalyan Chobe.
And he got full support, Under 17
Ah,
World Cup.
exactly.
Not only central government, but state governments
State
spend a lot of
government,
money,
yes.
So, and
Hmm.
also time space movement. तुम्हारा जो the last comment, na,
Yeah.
it is a very idealistic world where you think there is no corruption. Yeah, so the point to me is, do you think that the Brazil Football Federation is not corrupt? Do you not think that the Argentinian Football Federation is not corrupt? We're talking about the current world champions, So therefore, again, I agree. I would love the system to be like what you're saying. I would love it. But I
ideal नहीं होता ना, but sir
ideal नहीं होता, and that is not realistic. There will be corruption. There will be players taking advantage, of these realities, and that is something. Again, even in other parts of the world, maybe the Messis and Ronaldos and Ronaldinhos were missed, right? And that is not to be. No, Shomo, I don't think you need to demolish the GS post. See, that is the problem. The GS has also been hired externally. But Kushal Das in 2010 came in from the ICC. He was with the ICC in Dubai, right? Now, what has happened this time around? They've been playing around with this. The point is, what I have said to the AFF is what the AFF should do. The General Secretary or Secretary General, whatever you want to call it, he runs the administrative part. Create the post of CEO in the AFF who looks after the vision of the federation, who represents the federation, and takes the federations we should take forward, na?
ट्रू। आपको लगता है कि 2025 में ये जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का केस है सुप्रीम कोर्ट में, उसका कुछ फाइनल नतीजा आने के चांसेस है?
See, I thought in 2024 some sort of judgment would come from the Supreme Court. I've now realized that this topic is not amongst their priorities. Hiren, I cannot look into the magic ball and tell you kya hoga, nahi hoga. I would hope that they that they realize, someone tells them that is the toughest thing. I honestly don't know.
बिकॉज आई थिंक इस बार उन्होंने नेक्स्ट डेट भी एज सच कोई उनकी वेबसाइट पे भी नहीं है कि भाई नेक्स्ट कब उनका हियरिंग है, नथिंग
it so many times, na. The question is at what time will there be a communication with FIFA and AFC on this matter, or will we run into another FIFA ban, right?
Exactly.
And I go back, I told these, I told the COA, the Supreme Court appointed COA, you're walking
Hmm.
into a ban. And they did not care.
Hmm.
They laughed in my face. That's the reality. They all
Hmm.
said, Are FIFA kabhi hum logo ko nahi ban karega. And this is what I said. The problem is that if you want to understand how the world works, you have to understand it doesn't matter if you're Brazil, if you're England, if you're Spain, if you're India, we're all in the same boat.
Hmm.
Brazil, the government wanted to get rid of the president.
Hmm.
FIFA stepped in, and then the government, took the route of the sports code. In Spain, the same thing happened, right? They've now had
Hmm.
one president removed because of misconduct after the World Cup
World.
win in
Hmm.
2023. But now the new one is also most probably go. But that is going to happen.
Hmm.
Why the India needs to immediately install a sports code.
Hmm.
You know,
लेट्स मूव ऑन टू द लास्ट टॉपिक, क्योंकि हमने 2025 में जो इंडियन फुटबॉल को इम्पैक्ट करने वाले हैं, मोस्ट ऑफ द टॉपिक तो हमने डिस्कस कर लिए हैं, नेशनल टीम, एएफएफ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, पीओसी, यूथ टीम एंड एवरीथिंग। वन थिंग जो क्लब फुटबॉल को काफी इम्पैक्ट करने वाला है वो है एएफएफ एंड एफएसडीएल का कॉन्ट्रैक्ट, जो कि पिछले 15 साल से 2010 में जो साइन हुआ था एंड जो कि दिसंबर 2025 में खत्म होगा। दैट मीन्स ये जो आईएसएल का सीजन है ये आपका मार्च अप्रैल जब खत्म होगा, उसके बाद मे बी मई जून में इसके रिगार्डिंग, अब वैसे तो आइडियली तो अभी से या फिर इससे पहले ही इस तरह के जब जो बड़े मतलब क्या बोलते हैं डिसीजन होते हैं उसके रिगार्डिंग डिस्कशन स्टार्ट हो जाते हैं, क्योंकि ये ऐसा तो नहीं है कि एक मीटिंग में आपका सारा फाइनलाइज हो जाएगा। देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ मनी इन्वॉल्व इन दिस काइंड ऑफ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एंड एवरीथिंग। सो हाउ डू यू सी दैट इम्पैक्ट इंडियन फुटबॉल इन 2025, दैट एफएसडीएल एफएफ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट, आपको क्या इसके प्लस पॉइंट माइनस पॉइंट क्या इम्पैक्ट लगता है, ओवरऑल क्या होगा?
Even I'm worried that
हम्म।
so far there is no conversation to finalize, um, either to say, listen, we will continue or we will not continue. Because if you don't continue, then AFF needs to look for an alternative. And the alternatives have to be amongst the biggest Indian corporates.
कॉर्पोरेट्स।
It cannot, because no foreign sports management company will come in and take your rights and say, okay, here you've got $10 million a year, we take over your rights. Television rights. Look at the situation. I remember Ranjit Bajaj was saying, I-League ka rights, AF is unable to sell. We will sell it. What happened? You're now paying 12.5 lakhs per club to Sony to broadcast your league. 2.5 crores is going from the league. So the reality is that if this contract goes, AFF loses 50 crores. AFF is not generating any paisa left, right, and center. That's the first problem. Government support is minimal. FIFA, AFC is given whatever they're giving, as they're giving India actually more than others, but again, it could be much, much more. And one should not forget that FSDL is spending money on organizing the ISL.
ISL,
right?
इस
And
इसमें सिर्फ मैं
creating some money into also creating enough money into the central pool. So if we're
एक
seeing
इसमें
that FSDL steps out, that ISL framework loses about 250 crores a year.
इसमें मैं एक पॉइंट ऐड करना चाहता हूँ जो आकाश भाई ने बोला, लेकिन मैं ये जानना चाहता हूँ सर, एज वी ऑल नो कि जो करंट इंडियन फुटबॉल का सिचुएशन है उस हिसाब से हम सबको पता है कि देर इज ए नो वन यू कैन से कि इंटरेस्टेड टू इन्वेस्ट मनी। तो ये लोगों को नहीं भूलना चाहिए कि जो अभी क्लब्स है आईएसएल में और जो उनके ओनर्स इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं उसका वन ऑफ द रीजन है कि नो डाउट उनका एक पैशन है फुटबॉल के लिए, वो तो है, चलो मान लेते हैं, लेकिन अनदर थिंग इज द इन्वॉल्वमेंट ऑफ एफएसडीएल और यू कैन से कि रिलायंस एज ए बिग कॉर्पोरेट, उनका क्रेडिट लेके वो फुटबॉल में इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं। इट्स नॉट लाइक कि एएफएफ के क्रेडिट पे वो इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं इंडियन फुटबॉल में। सो ये भी पॉइंट अगर
I think
एफएसडीएल
Hiren, I would not even say that. I will say that certain people have invested money into this football venture because of their links to Reliance. They have no passion for football. They're doing it because they've got business interests with Reliance. Very simple. I remember initially there were people who invested into the ISL who are no longer involved. because via the ISL they wanted to get into a business relationship with Reliance.
with Reliance.
And someone I know got that business relationship and then immediately exited after year 2 from the ISL. So
Because
the
क्या है सर
ISL is a
इसमें
means to
नहीं नहीं
pull nobody in a listen, Hiren, if you had 10 crores, 20 crores, 100 crores, 200 crores, and you and I are passionate about football, right? How would we invest the money? Would we invest the money into an ISL team? Would we invest the money into an I-League team? Would we even invest in India and rather say, भाई हम तो बाहर जाके हम invest करते हैं,
करेंगे हाँ
right? Because there's return on investment.
नहीं इसमें बिकॉज सर देखिए ये देखिए जैसे सौम्या भाई बोल रहे हैं और फैंस का ये आता है कि चलो ये एफ अगर एफएसडीएल चला जाएगा तो कोई और आ जाएगा बट पीपल डोंट रियलाइज कि देयर इज नो वन अवेलेबल इन ओपन हैंड यू कैन से कि विद बहुत ओपन हैंड्स कि भाई हम इंडियन फुटबॉल में पैसा डालने के लिए रेडी है
who in a sane mind, Hiren, ask it
Hmm.
differently. I try to answer Shomo. Who in a sane mind, who has enough money, knowingly losing money, there is no return on investment, would even give 1 rupee to the AIF say run the ISL? Shomo, they are losing money. Reliance is not making money. Though people who are saying that they have made money over the last 15 years don't know anything about football, right? If you add up simply the numbers, Reliance will have at least spent 3,000 crores on Indian football in the last 14 years. Just think about that number, right? Where have we come? Nowhere. That is the reality. Do you think that looking at how the AIF runs the I-League, anybody in a sane mind would give the AIF money to run a league? Do you seriously think the AIF is in a position to run an ISL? Right? That is the sad reality. If there was a better option, take it. I at least don't see. I don't know, Hiren, if you see, I do not see a better option. At the moment, we are stuck with Reliance. Reliance also, do not forget, in 2010, Reliance bailed us out because the Z Group, who used to hold the rights, used to show 10 sports, did not want to spend any money because they said the I-League product was so bad. Why should we invest into it? I remember they 2005 under NFL when Z came in, they bought in cheerleaders with the Zebras. Mayanti Langa started it off, the production team from England. Wow.
350 करोड़ का डील था ना वो 2000 ये जो जी वाला था पहले वाला एंड देन आई थिंक 350 का कितना वो डील किया था उन्होंने
ना much less
अच्छा
it was about Reliance committed 750 crores for 15 years. The reality is that we have not been able to build on it. The original plan was to turn the I-League into the ISL, but the I-League clubs opposed that, right? That is something that the club officials of the so-called legacy clubs and old clubs will not say, right?
नहीं बताते ना वो
that is one. And secondly, also the ISL, with the intention it was started, I was there in 2014. I was running Mumbai City. 2014, I'm very happy that I was part of that season. It was an incredible 3-month, 4-month journey that we had. But the problem was that with all the marketing money that is spent bringing in players from abroad, there was no chance to recover the cost. And the same situation is there in season 11 of the league because no broadcaster is willing to give you money. And as long as no broadcaster is willing to give you money, you will not become profitable. That is the whole problem. We have a profitability problem. Right?
True. So, yeah. Rain Williams is a origin player. So I think we almost cover all the most important, you can say, कि broader topics of Indian football की जो 2025 को इंडिया के लिए ब्राइटर भी बना सकते हैं एंड और ज्यादा 2024 से डार्कर भी बना सकते हैं. सो देयर इज अ टू पॉसिबिलिटीज एंड दैट्स व्हाई आज का हमारा डिस्कशन का मेन पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू यही था कि लोगों को पहले ही दिन ही थोड़े से रियलिटी चेक बता दे कि भाई कौन कौन सी चीजें इंडियन फुटबॉल को क्या किस तरह से इम्पैक्ट करने वाली है एंड क्या इसके पॉसिबली रूट है, किस तरह से पॉजिटिव रूट्स भी है एंड किस तरह से इसका नेगेटिव इम्पैक्ट भी हो सकता है. सो आई थिंक एज ए इंडियन फुटबॉल फैन अगर आप रियलिटी को मतलब क्या बोलते हैं कि जानना या फिर देखना पसंद करते हैं, देन यू विल बी प्रिपेयर्ड। ऐसा नहीं होगा कि भाई आपको ऐसा शौक लग जाएगा कि भाई ये क्या हो गया। जो फैंस लाला लैंड में रह रहे हैं, जो फैंस फैंटेसी में जी रहे हैं, उनके लिए डेफिनेटली अगर कुछ इधर उधर हुआ तो उनके लिए शौक हो सकता है, बट एज ए आपके लिए एटलीस्ट आप आई थिंक उस वे में थोड़े से वो रहेंगे कि हाँ भाई चलो ये पता ही था कि ऐसा भी हो सकता है। सो आई थिंक सर हमने आई थिंक मेरे हिसाब से सारे कवर कर लिए हैं, मैं मिस तो नहीं किए। नेशनल टीम का कर लिया है, यूथ टीम्स के बारे में बात कर ली है, ओसीआई पीओआई के बारे में बात कर ली है, एएफएफ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन की बात कर ली है, देन एफएसटीएल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कर लिया है। बाकी तो आई थिंक उसके अराउंड ही हमने यहाँ पे आई थिंक ये भी बात कर लिया है। अरे भाई साफ फॉर्मेट भाई जो भी होगा पता चल जाएगा भाई। साफ इज अनदर टॉपिक जो कि हम उसके ऊपर भी भाई अलग से एक पूरा कर सकते हैं। तो साफ भाई बता देगा क्या किस तरह का फॉर्मेट रखना है। आई थिंक अदर देन दैट आई थिंक मे बी प्लेयर्स, रेफरीज और वीआर, ये सारी चीजें तो आई थिंक जब होगी तब उसके बारे में ज्यादा बात करेंगे। बट आई थिंक दिस आर दी मेन टॉपिक्स की जो ज्यादा इम्पेक्ट डाल सकते हैं, बिकॉज रेफरी, वीआर और ये सारी चीजें इनके कंपैरिजन में मेरे को लगता है कि सेकंड स्टेज वाली चीजें है जो कि वो है। सो यहाँ तक रखते हैं। लेट मी नो सर, आपका कोई फाइनल थॉट अबाउट 2025 इंडियन फुटबॉल, आप जो बताना चाहते हो कि भाई हाँ ये इम्पोर्टेंट हो सकता है, देन वी विल रैप अप।
One thing which I always say,
आई थिंक ये
don't
रेंजर
stop
भाई का सर
supporting Indian football. Nah.
नहीं नहीं सर एक आपका आंसर बताइए, लेकिन उसके साथ इसका भी जवाब दे देना जो रेंजर भाई ने बोला है कि व्हाट वी कैन डू बीइंग अ फैन टू डेवलप, बिकॉज हमने सारे स्टेक होल्डर की बात की बट एज अ फैन हमारी बात नहीं की है। सो आई थिंक दिस इज द परफेक्ट वे टू रैप अप दिस टीम कि एज अ फैन हमारी रिस्पांसिबिलिटी क्या होनी चाहिए टू डेवलप इंडियन फुटबॉल इन 2025, एंड आपके फाइनल थॉट्स।
As a fan, don't stop supporting Indian football. That would be the first thing I would say. Support Indian football. Question Indian football. But also remember that also have an understanding who are your sources of information, who are you listening to, what are you reading. I saw the other day the story about Brazilian legends coming to Chennai to play, and then if you read the Sports Star article to the whole thing, of which all these small little snippets were made, that the organizer said, we were doing a conference, we'll invite them, we'll send them invitation letters, we don't know if they're coming, and it was sold as if it's already done, right? So therefore be careful, and also question Indian football, but question it in the right way. As I said, Asian Games, very good example. That is, to me, was not the right thing to do. Listen to the right people, support the right people, support us. We are fighting for the right causes. We need to grow, right? Otherwise, nothing will happen. Keep on supporting Indian football. That's the most important thing, and it will most likely be a tough year. Right? There is hope. I always say, never forget, leave hope. And where to question? Social media. Raise topics on Twitter. Raise topics on Instagram or elsewhere. Ask people.
Talk about this topic with the with the other peoples.
Right. So again, Twitter to follow, or X as a platform, follow Curious Harry, follow myself, Arun Foot. If you have things, bring it to our notice. We will try to share it with a bigger community. That is what you can do. But also be, I also, general criticism to me does not make sense. Be more precise. Saying the whole system is corrupt is a very easy thing to say. Because
exactly.
Yes, but the problem is, to me, is that
आई थिंक सर, आई थिंक जो फैंस ये जानना चाहते हैं कि क्या क्या चीजें हम कर सकते हैं, डिस्कशन मतलब क्या बोलते हैं कि लोगों के ध्यान में ला सकते हैं। आई थिंक आज का जो हमारा डिस्कशन था उसमें हमने मेन पॉइंट्स, आई थिंक मेरे को लगता है कि जो है वो सारे डिस्कस किए हैं। तो उसके बारे में डेफिनेटली वो अपने अंडरस्टैंडिंग से उसके बारे में ज्यादा जान के वो पॉइंट रेस कर सकते हैं विद दी एंड कैन आस्क टू दी स्टेक होल्डर्स कि भाई इसके बारे में क्या है। जैसे हमने यूथ फुटबॉल में बात की थी रिगार्डिंग कोचिंग, रिगार्डिंग कंपटीशन, उस बारे में, या फिर रिगार्डिंग पीओआई की जो बात की कि कहाँ से आपको क्वेश्चन पूछने हैं, रिगार्डिंग एएफएफ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में अगर है तो आप सुप्रीम कोर्ट या फिर उस तरह से आप जिस तरह से जहाँ पे आपको लगता है कि कर सकते हैं। आई थिंक ये सारे ऐसी चीजें हैं कि जहाँ पे आपको क्वेश्चन रेस करने हैं। एंड ये जो सारे आज हमने डिस्कस किए हैं, आई थिंक मेरे को लगता है कि दिस आर दी मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट। इसको अगर हम हल नहीं करेंगे तो आई थिंक फिर नथिंग इज गोना हैपन। सो दैट्स द थिंग। आई होप कि आप सबको भी मजा आया होगा, आप सबको भी कुछ अलग जानने को मिला होगा कि भाई क्या क्या चीजें इंडियन फुटबॉल में हो रही है या फिर होने वाली है, उसके बारे में आपको पता लगा होगा। सो अगर आपको ये डिस्कशन अच्छा लगा है तो प्लीज लाइक सब्सक्राइब कर दीजिए दोनों चैनल को। सर का चैनल का भी टाइटल उनमें ही लिंक दिया गया है। सो मिलते हैं, ऐसे ही हम डिस्कशन लाते रहेंगे। एंड डेफिनेटली एक एक टॉपिक के बारे में तो हम वैसे हमने पास्ट में भी काफी सारी बातचीत की हुई है, बट डेफिनेटली रेगुलरली हम इसके बारे में भी रिगार्डिंग यूथ फुटबॉल या फिर सेपरेट टॉपिक के ऊपर भी डिस्कशन करेंगे, ताकि इन डेप्थ भी आपको पता चले। एंड जैसे ही कुछ डेवलपमेंट होगा इंडियन फुटबॉल में बाकी, तो उसके बारे में बातचीत करेंगे। बाकी मिलते हैं कल। थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर ज्वाइनिंग। पहला दिन था 2025 का, सो लेट होप सो कि भाई मजा आया होगा। एंड थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर ज्वाइनिंग सर। प्लीज गाइस डू चेक आउट अरुण फुट। मिलते हैं, टेक केयर, बाय बाय, जय हिंद, जय भारत।
Bye, everybody.